Good morning, everyone. I will now call to order the October 20, 2022 Clackamas County Board of Commissioners Business Meeting. Gary Schmidt, please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Smith. First, our staff support today, County Council Stephen Madcourt, Clerk to the Board Tony Mayernick, Commissioner Martha Schrader. It will not be here today. She's attending an event with U.S. Senator Ron Wyden, who's visiting Clackamas County, one of our housing projects. Roll call, Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Commissioner Fisher.
Here.
Commissioner Shull.
Here.
Chair Smith.
Here, and please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and good morning, everyone. We have a lot of fans in the audience today. Thank you. We are holding this meeting in person and virtually. If you've joined us via Zoom for this meeting and are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. General public comment will be taken in the usual allotted time. I would like to remind all participants, including staff, all elected officials, and members of the public, that Robert's Rules of Order will be enforced in this business meeting. We welcome your opinions and look forward to your polite participation. Gary, can you please introduce the first item?
Yes, Chair Smith. We start with the presentation today, a presentation regarding earthquake preparedness. Today, October 20th, is a statewide earthquake preparedness drill. So Jamie Poole from Disaster Management will give a quick presentation. Go ahead, Jamie.
Thank you. Good morning. Today is the Great Shakeout, and our staff are participating in this shakeout drill. So today at 10:20 a.m., all county employees will be encouraged to take the correct protective action where they are. So we'll watch a video in a little bit about how to do that depending on where you are. Do you have that? No? Okay. So we'll just talk about it really quick. So if you're in a facility, you're going to want to drop to the ground, and that will help you. If you're shaking, you can move around a little bit. If you can get under something sturdy, like a table, that's the cover, you get under something, and then you hold on to that cover. And if you're unable to get under something, say like you're in the audience here, you would drop to the ground, try to protect your head and neck, and hold on that way. If you can get to an interior wall, that's something you should do. Try to stay away from windows and those kinds of things that would be falling on you. So it is under Oregon Revised Statute 401.9 that requires us to participate in a drop, cover, and hold on drill annually. And there are a lot of earthquakes that happen in Oregon and Washington every year. I think sometimes we forget that because we don't have them very frequently, but just this month on October 7th, there was a 4.4 magnitude earthquake that shook in Lynn County. I actually felt it. I was in Eugene and felt that one. The most recent large crustal earthquakes that we felt in Oregon were in 1993, the Scotts Mills, a magnitude 5.6, and the Klamath Falls, magnitude 5.9. And we also do know that we have the potential of a major catastrophic earthquake from the Cascadia subduction zone off the coast. So for this reason, we want to practice what to do and have that muscle memory by taking those protective actions. So doing this today. And I believe that this room's not going to participate at 10:20, but I do encourage everyone at some point today to practice that, just wherever you are when it's appropriate, to get that muscle memory. In addition to practicing this, we also recommend that every employee and community member take some preparedness actions with their family. So that would include having a disaster plan, talking with your family about how you'll communicate after a disaster, earthquake, where you'll go, and then having supplies to get through that period of time after that earthquake. We do recommend that a home kit, you have 2 weeks of supplies at home to get you through a major earthquake. We also recommend that you have some items in your vehicle so that you can shelter in place or help you get to where you're going. If you have high heels on for the day, you might want to have shoes in your car so you can walk, tennis shoes so that you can walk further. Work kits, we recommend that you have something at work that could help you shelter at work for a period of time if you can't get home. There is a new program called Quake Alert that many people may have heard or may have not have heard of. It is an earthquake early warning system, and there are 2 applications that you can download on your phone now in Oregon. It's Quake Alert USA and MyShake, and those you can actually get advanced warning after an earthquake happens. You'll actually get maybe 10 to 30 seconds of warning before the earth actually starts shaking where you're at. So encourage everyone to download those apps. Are there any questions?
Thank you for coming forward and telling us all that. It's always good to be prepared. We try to do that here at Clackamas County, not only with earthquakes, but a lot of the natural disasters that we've experienced over the last year and a half. So, Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Scholl.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie, for that information. You mentioned that Quake Alert. For those of us who are already on the county alert system that's working quite well, do we automatically get the Quake Alert?
No, well, there's 2 different pieces of technology from the the earthquake early warning system. You could get the wireless emergency alert, which you do not need to sign up or have an app for. The network of technology for the Shake Alert does not integrate directly with our county notification system, so it wouldn't be coming from us, it would be coming from the Shake Alert network. And the wireless emergency alert is that pop-up on your phone, kind of like the Amber Alert or some of the ones that we've sent out for the wildfires.
So if people Google Shake Alert, will that take them to the proper website to
Yeah,
get that
Oregon
downloaded?
Shake Alert.
Okay, thank you.
And we have it linked on our website as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas.
Just clarifying, at 10:20, we always done like the drill, right? Where you get underneath or we leave the building or whatnot. So what are we doing at 10:20?
So at 10:20 a.m. on the loudspeaker, you will hear an announcement, but we are not going to do it for you at this meeting. We're going to continue with the business of the meeting, so you will not go into the desks for this business meeting today. But
thank
you will
you.
hear an announcement at 10:20.
Yeah, others in the facility will
All
do
right.
that.
And those in the audience too, so we're not going to do the drill in this room during the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this. I appreciate it. And by the way, the county alerts do work, and during the wildfire last month, I had those blasting in my ear at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they work and are effective. So
Thank you.
thank you very much for coming forward today on this. Gary, what's next?
Next is the Housing Authority Consent Agenda. Chair, if you would please convene as the Housing Authority.
I will recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as a Housing Authority of Clackamas County.
Thank you. You're now meeting as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County. First, Housing Commissioner Ann Leenstra is joining on Zoom. I see you there. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you.
The only item today is consent agenda for the Housing Authority. Tony, would you please read the Housing Authority consent agenda?
Yes, let me just get that pulled up. Housing Authority Consent Agenda, Item 1, approval of an amendment increasing funding to the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Lake Oswego and Metro for developer solicitation and selection for the Boones Ferry project in Lake Oswego. Amendment value is $5,759,788. Total agreement value is increased to $12,909,788. Funding is through Metro Regional Affordable Housing Bond Site Acquisition Program, set aside funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of infrastructure and additional shared cost agreement with the Workforce Development Board regarding the funding allocations for the WorkSource Clackamas Center. Total contract value of $275.39 for 1 year, funded through Ross Grant funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 3, approval of an amendment to the regulatory agreement and loan agreement with Green Line Affordable Development Limited Partnership for the Fuller Road Station, changing the low-income housing tax credit set aside from average income to 40/60 model, and approval to delegate signature authority per Resolution 1951. Amendment has no fiscal impact. Loan value remains at $8.57 million. Funding is through loan payments by Green Line. No county general funds are involved. Item 4, approval of an amendment increasing funding and extending duration of a personal services contract with Do Good Multnomah for supportive services at Clayton Moore Commons, and an assignment addendum to Clackamas County. Amendment value is $110,383.04 for 6 months. Total contract value is increased to $480,383.04 for 2 years and 6 months. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Services Funds. No county general funds are involved. Madam Chair, that concludes the list.
Thank you, Tony. Does any commissioner wish to remove anything off this consent agenda? Commissioner Savas.
No, Chair, I do not wish to remove anything. I just want to make a comment. I'll make it brief, and I'll expand later on my commissioner comments towards the end. I just want to point out that this is the time every week, really, where we approve all of the services and projects and things that are budgeted. And the budget itself, for whatever reasons, what we approve or disapprove, is not as significant as what we do every week. If we really wanted to not support something or support something, here is the time where we approve the consent agenda. That's where the rubber meets the road. I also want to highlight, and I will expand on this particularly in Commissioner comments, is that the Clayton Moore facility, item number 4D on the consent agenda, is a great example of the Veterans Village success in that we built the Veterans Village on a transitional model. And that a lot of people, on the very first day, in fact, one of the very first residents of the Clayton Moore facility, a 24-unit housing facility for veterans in Oregon City on Pleasant Avenue, specifically one person I asked him when I met him that morning, I said, we were cutting the ribbon, I said, so where'd you live before today, before you moved in? He says, I lived at the Veterans Village, as an example. So there was a full array of services at the Veterans Village for wraparound services, and today, even still, we're adding to that at the Veterans Housing. So this is just an example of our success, and I want to point out what's unique about this, and this is why I want to talk about it later today, is that this does not match the Housing First model. And I think we have to explore all models of how we address homelessness. I'll conclude there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. I think those points are important. I will now accept a motion for the consent agenda. Ann Leenstra.
Yes, I move we approve the Housing Authority consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Leenstra has moved for approval of the Housing Authority consent agenda. Commissioner Fisher has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please call the poll.
Commissioner Leenstra.
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher.
Aye.
Commissioner Shull.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Commissioner Leenstra, for joining us today. I will now adjourn as a Housing Authority Board and reconvene as a Board of County Commissioners. Gary, what's up?
Next is the consent agenda for the regular Clackamas County. Tony, would you please read the consent agenda?
Elected officials, item 1, approval of previous business meeting minutes for the Board of County Commissioners. Item 2, approval of an amendment extending the duration and increasing funding for a subrecipient agreement with Oregon Health and Science University for system-level diversion strategies. Amendment value is $130,005. Total agreement value is increased to $279,963. Funding through the Comprehensive Opioid Abuse Site-Based Program Grant through the U.S. Department of Justice. No county general funds are involved. For the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. Health, Housing, Human Services, item 1, approval of a subrecipient grant agreement to Ant Farm for outreach services to older Clackamas County residents. Grant value is $106,276 for 28 months. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Human Services. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of an amendment to a grant agreement from Oregon Housing and Community Services for rent assistance services. Amendment has no fiscal impact. Grant value remains at $3,316,171. Funding is through the Oregon Housing and Community Services. No county general funds are involved. Item 3, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Oregon Health Authority for behavioral health housing investment funds. Agreement value is $4,704,837.17 for 19 months. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved. Item 4, approval of an amendment to a grant from the Oregon Department of Education for continuation of coordinated enrollment services for families eligible for publicly funded preschool programs. Amendment value is $303,000 for 1 year. Grant value is increased to $526,500 for 2 years. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Education. No county general funds are involved. Item 5, approval of an assignment addendum from the Housing Authority for a personal services contract with Do Good Multnomah for supportive services at Clayton Mora Commons. Assignment has no fiscal impact. Contract value remains at $480,383.04 for 2 years and 6 months. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Services Funds. No county general funds are involved. Transportation and Development, Item 1, approval of an infrastructure and additional shared cost agreement with the Workforce Development Board regarding the funding allocations for the WorkSource Clackamas Center. No fiscal impact. There is no current or past financial contribution from Clackamas County. No county general funds are involved. Madam Chair, that concludes the list.
Thank you, Tony. Any commissioner wish to remove anything off the consent agenda? I will entertain a motion.
I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved for approval of the consent agenda. Commissioner Salas has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Tony, please call the poll.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Up next is public communication. This portion of the agenda shall be limited to items of county business which are properly the object of board consideration and should be nonpartisan in nature, as the BCC is a nonpartisan governing body under Oregon Revised Statutes and County Code. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. Comments shall be respectful and courteous to all. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public communication at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as part of the public record. However, we will not be reading them at the business meeting due to time constraints. I will now open the meeting for public testimony. We will take in-person testimony first. Gary, it is 1 minute until we have our announcement. Should we wait until that happens?
I would recommend waiting for another 30 seconds here, yes.
Okay, we're going to, folks, because I don't want to have to be interrupted during anybody coming forward. And we have a lot of cards in here, and I'm thankful for that. So we're just going to recess for stay.
Well, actually, if you want to just recess the meeting for a few minutes here.
We're going to recess just for a few.
And Chair Smith, are you okay if I go under the desk here?
You can do whatever you want, Commissioner. If you want to take a dive, you go right ahead.
I'm just thinking, all of our staff are asked to do that, and in sense of camaraderie with them, going under their
Anybody in
desks.
the audience, feel free to participate or not. Thank you all for your participation on the Great Shakeout. Now we will start public communication in this. First is Adam Erickson. Please come forward. State your name, Adam Erickson. State your name, area of residence, and sir, you have 3 minutes.
Hello. I want to first thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. Chairwoman Smith, it was so fun to talk with you earlier and banter back and forth. Your good humor is so appreciated, and so thank you for that. I want to thank you for this opportunity. I am Adam Erickson. I'm pastor at ClackCo United Church of Christ. And I wanted to come here today to speak on behalf of Project Turnkey. I am so excited about already hearing what you are doing to deal with the houseless crisis here in the county. And I wanted to give you a little bit of my perspective as a pastor at a local church where one of these hotels could be purchased. I have many members of my church who have come recently who have experienced houselessness. One was a mother with 3 children who was running from her husband, who was violent and abusive against her. I have another guy who's a little younger than I am, who has been homeless for about 10 years, and he is looking for ways to get out of homelessness, but there aren't a lot of opportunities here in the county for him because of the crisis. I have tried to help him find resources, but it's really hard, and it seems as though Project Turnkey could be a really good solution for him and for this mother with these 3 children. It appears that there is already financial resources available for us to do this. The places in the other counties that have done Project Turnkey have shown that crime is reduced in areas where they have these. 911 calls are reduced in these areas. So there's evidence that it reduces the crime rate. And I also wanted to say that many of our members living in this neighborhood support Project Turnkey coming there. There's been a lot of talk about, as a pastor, I want to say there's been a lot of talk about voting biblical values recently. The Bible has 2,000 more verses in it about helping the poor. Biblical values are obsessed with helping the poor. And as a pastor, a faith leader, I want to ensure we do all of the different options that Commissioner Savas was talking about earlier. And I think that this is one of those options that we could look into and implement in our community to help the most vulnerable, who Jesus calls the least of these. Thank you so much for your work and all of the good things that you are doing for the county. God bless you.
Thank you, Pastor Erickson. You represent the ClackCo United Church of Christ. Where is that located?
That is located on Webster Road.
Oh, it is. Okay, I think I was by it the other day.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for coming forward.
Thank you.
And we appreciate your support. Next up is George Converse. Please come forward, state your name, your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is George Converse. I live in Oregon City, and I'm here to talk about the opportunity you have to make a real difference. Because I know from times in my life that a little help can be really important. I will limit myself to just one of those experiences. Almost 70 years ago, my father worked at a lumber mill in Ashland. At that time, Ashland had 5 lumber mills. 2 years later, 4 of them, including the one my father worked at, had closed. So my dad went on unemployment. So many lumber workers were out of jobs that it was hard to find work. But when unemployment benefits ran out, my father had a job interview. Our pastor at that time realized my father didn't have a decent pair of shoes. So he gave him a pair of shoes. My dad got the job, and our family of 6 were able to keep paying the rent and putting food on the table. So just a little help kept my family off the streets. My parents and their 4 children all became productive citizens. Who knows what would have happened without that pair of shoes? Now with Project Turnkey, you have the opportunity to multiply that benefit, to give hundreds of people that little help that will make them more productive. This will not only benefit them, but also the rest of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Very moving. George, thank you for coming and sharing your personal story. Up next, Donna Converse. Gee, I wonder if you're related. Please state your name and area of residence.
I will. Good morning. But I wanted to say before that as I prepared to come and speak to you today, I realized that homelessness has been around me my whole life. I am Donna Converse, related to the previous speaker. My husband and I moved to Clackamas County 2 years ago, but my roots in this area are very deep. I was born in Multnomah County. For 3 summers during my elementary years, I lived with my grandparents on their homestead near Boring, where I picked berries for them and their neighbors. And even at 8 years old, I realized that the migrant workers that were working beside me had a housing problem. George and I were actually homeless one summer. He did not get tenure at the University of Illinois. We sold our house, put our belongings in a friend's garage, stayed in their house while they were on vacation, and then in campgrounds and with relatives until he got a job at the end of the summer, late August, as I recall. And that very unsettling, unstable part of our life came to an end. Much later, I was teaching elementary school in Southern Oregon, in a rural part of this county, and I don't remember having any homeless students in my class, but I certainly heard about students who were living in cars or camps with very little amenities. So homeless has been around me all my life. However, today, this has become a crisis. I'm called here today by my faith community, by Adam Erickson, that you've heard from, and the prophets of the Old Testament, who shouted to the government of their days to take care of the widows, the orphan, and the poor, the most vulnerable of their time. Even Jesus said, "What you do to the least, you do to me." You, as county commissioners, have the money available to implement Project Turnkey, a transitional housing program that has proven to get houseless people off the streets and into a process that will lead to more productive lives. This will make us all safer and happier. So do it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your personal stories. Those are the best. Yes, Rick Dodge, you're up.
Rick Dodge, Milwaukee, Oregon. And I have to disagree somewhat with what's been said, because the vast majority, it has been proven that they are not textbook poor, as the poor that Jesus taught in the Bible. These are the vast majority of these people. In an example here that I want to bring up is the Grotto. The Grotto eliminated their homeless encampment because of the problems with crime and the damage to their property, which is a dilemma for the Catholic Church, which I'm not affiliated with. Was, we're supposed to be helping. But they came to the conclusion that these people were not the textbook poor that the good folks before me are talking about. So, the example, these are, the troublemakers are the ones that are in the temple when Christ went in and cleaned it out. Now, so that's how they made their decision. Now, after last Thursday, Thursday's meeting, I went out to the Veterans Camp on 115th. I was doubly frustrated because that's what we should be doing instead of buying hotels. Now, I don't know, I guess I have, okay. The only proof that I have here, Hillsborough bought a hotel in Hillsborough,
Washington County,
thank you.
in Hillsborough.
Yes. I thought I was a little further down the list, so I wasn't quite prepared here. Nevertheless, it was so trashed and so that they had to tear it down, bulldoze it, and then they replaced it with smaller little tiny units. Now, Pamplin Publishing put this out. And how I got this information was 3 houses from the Comfort Suites, the lady that I told you about before, sent me this information from a friend of hers in Hillsborough. It showed the picture of the houses that are similar, like the Vets Village. Is what they replaced it with. Now, the frustration of going out there to Vets Village, and I'm seeing a sign next door saying the county-owned property, no trespassing. Oh, anyway, the 4 acres, which could be developed just right next door, away from a residential area, and that's what we should be doing, not buying hotels.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. You know, there's certainly a debate. Your excuse, sir. And I want to acknowledge what you're saying because it is important. There is a debate between advocates and critics on what's the best way to handle homelessness. And we do struggle with that. There are many opportunities that are presented to our county government on different ways to handle this situation. The purchase of this hotel was only one way. And there's also a debate, housing first, services first. I think this board is in fairly close agreement that any housing needs to have services available because I feel, I don't want to speak for my commissioners, I feel that we need to identify the cause of the homelessness first. And there's many reasons for it. You know, a lot of the critics say, well, they're just lazy, they need to go out and get a job. Or they're addicted. Yeah, and some of that may be true. But we just have to look at the data that's been presented to us, and statistically speaking, the high cost of housing is a leading cause of homelessness. And that's from a University of California study conducted last year, and I'm just not spouting this because it's what Tootie Smith thinks. Going forward, we've been doing outreach, and I personally have been doing outreach, speaking to different groups on this. And I've talked to my neighbors to the north, Multnomah County, Chair Kafori, and she says, you know, we are experiencing this quite heavily, as we know, in the Portland area, although she's Multnomah County, not City of Portland. And she says, by far the best model that in our area, she said, has been the hotel program for large amounts of homeless people. Now, my commissioners here, we all have different ideas on what works, and Commissioner Savas is up in the queue, and he can talk about this. There are different areas that we're going to be diving into, and maybe you can talk about tax lot 1200 in your comments. It would be nice to pursue this. Do we have all the answers? No, we don't. We do not. We are trying the very best we can to answer the outcry of our citizens. Do something about homelessness. I'm embarrassed to see our state turning into this. So that's what we're trying to do. Thank you very much, Rick. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, so I want to point out that, yeah, there are a lot of different ideas, and I think some people want to grab onto one solution and think that one solution is the only solution, or it's the solution. And having some experience talking with people and visiting sites, talking to people that are actually homeless and are in these different models and how or why they got there and what fits for them, I think is actually fascinating. So that's why it really, one size does not fit all by any means. Both the turnkey project, the hotel model, is a transitional. as well as the Veterans Village model, let's just say. But there are people that will not go into the hotel model because they're not ready, because maybe they're actually chronically homeless and been homeless for a very, very long time. They need a way to transition similar, not the best analogy, but similar to a combat veteran coming back to the States, sometimes not ready to go back into the normal world the very next day. They need to decompress and adjust. And that's where this Veterans Village has been toured by doctors and psychologists and everyone else and said, wow, the setting here is great. It's very serene, it's very tranquil, and is exactly what these particular people need when they're coming back, especially if they've been chronically homeless for a long time. There's the newly homeless. The newly homeless are people that economically, maybe they were displaced, they lost their job. And some of those newly homeless are either going to find themselves in a car or find themselves possibly in a hotel room that we can, through a turnkey project in one of the counties in the region. And it's appropriate. They're not going to resist that because that's certainly a step up. But the beauty about both of these is, one point, I mean, there's a lot. I'm going to stop here, but I'm going to make this one point. The beauty about both of these are, once they are in a facility, regardless of what it is, they are there and they are accessible for staff who are trying to help them navigate the next steps into getting back to life normal. If they're on the street, homeless, in the tent, or under a pallet, they could be there today, but they're not there tomorrow. And how can staff who are trying to help them find them? They can't. So we have to be open-minded and get off the mindset that it's my way or it's this way and there's no other way we're going to do it. And and Tootie asked me to speak about tax law 1200. Rick, you brought up the neighboring property. That was the goal, actually. The goal was, once we proved the Veterans Village model would work, that we would expand it. Not necessarily there, but that was an option. And we're doing that. We're looking into that very thing, for not solely for veterans, but for other populations that are houseless at this time. So we're working on all those solutions. But I just think we need to be open-minded and realize that every person's situation is different, but the drug, alcohol, and mental health treatment services or a detox center sometimes is the only solution for some of these people, because they'll never make it to an apartment or never make it to a hotel room because they're not in the state of mind or near their source of whatever vice they may be accompanied with. So again, one size does not fit all.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Smith. So I've been Googling around trying to find what Rick Dodge is talking about, and I did find an article about a camp in Washington County that had unsafe conditions, and so it was county-owned land. They sold the land. They worked with the folks to get them housed. I'm asking my staff to get your email so I can forward that to you, and then if that's not what you were referring to, I would really like additional information. But you don't have to answer now. I'm just letting you know I'm interested in what you're saying, looking to find out what actually happened, because it's important that we have all the information.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Next is Des Valdez. Please come forward, state your name, area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Des Valdez, and I work with youth as a youth ministry coordinator at Prince of Life Lutheran in Oregon City. And I also work as a sacred organizer with Storyline Community in Oak Grove as part of the Clackamas Land and Housing cohorts. I am excited today to be commenting on Project Turnkey. In my work with youth, I have consistently been struck by how aware they are of the housing crisis. When we talk about our religious convictions to be concerned for the most vulnerable, they are quickly able to name those who are houseless as among that category of vulnerable people. But I've also witnessed just how easy it is for those same youth that I work with to be on the edge of houselessness themselves. Back in August, I received a text from someone in my community who told me she had 24 hours to make a rental payment or she would be evicted. She and her children. Despite working full-time, she and her family were on a knife edge every month, barely sustaining themselves. And this month, they just couldn't. While my communities were able to provide assistance in that case, that situation could have easily gone another way, and that family could have ended up having to rely on the resources that the county has available, which, as I know you are all too aware, are not adequate to meet the need and would not have been able to meet the needs in time to fill the gap for them. I am grateful that you are seeking solutions, a variety of solutions, and trying to close that gap, and that you've begun this process of consideration to purchase hotels through Project Turnkey. I was impressed in particular by the webinar with the Clackamas County Business Alliance earlier this week, and particularly Commissioner Smith's leadership in that. We know there is a severe lack of shelter beds and affordable housing in the county, and that people need housing in order to get stability. These hotels that are up for consideration provide an opportunity to not just get people sheltered, but also for the county to provide management of those facilities and to ensure that essential services are available to help people get out of crisis and into sustainable, stable situation. Our kids want to live in a world where everyone has the opportunity to meet their needs. And that is a lofty goal, but I really don't want to let them down. So that is why I am here today, because of their empathy and their desire to see a better world. And I believe a piece of that better world starts here in the county. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Up next, Les Poole. Please come forward. State your name, area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Les Poole, Clackamas County. I've been listening very intently, and I agree with a lot of what I hear, but I have some thoughts for you that we've certainly not heard about or seen much of the additional input I think that's required in this conversation. First of all, return on investment. Right now, we have an election that's going on, and there's a lot of accountability being focused and a lot of questioning of the candidate, Tina Kotek. I'm not here to talk about Tina, but the reason Tina isn't a shoe-in to win for governor is poor economic policy and cumbersome government and overbearing government. And where did Project Turnkey come from? It's got a great name. Well, it came from the legislature passing a bill so the taxpayers would provide millions of dollars to purchase motels and hotels. Well, where did that come from? It came from the excessive shutdown. It came from the excessive shutdown. And those folks that were in tourism, which is always been a shining star and an economic engine in the county, tourism was virtually shut down. We don't have time to debate the shutdown, and I certainly didn't and am not opposed to everything that occurred, but there was so much overkill there that our business community suffered. So now we have a fund where the county can get the money to purchase a facility or facilities, but the cost to maintain and operate them, the locations, the impacts on the neighbors, and again, back to my first statement, return on investment isn't very good. We heard a gentleman talk about getting a pair of shoes, and certainly we need to provide more than a pair of shoes. But do we need to buy Gucci suits? Do we all need Stetson hats? So my point is, yes, indeed, there are several things that can be done. Some of them are providing a very good return on investment, and in this case, not going to happen and not happening. And I would ask, what type of financial impacts are there to tourism, travel, and in the bigger picture, when you remove these facilities, these commercial businesses from the tax rolls and from the ability for people traveling here to use them? So I'm opposed to purchasing of the motels with good reason, and I think we've got a conversation that needs to go much further. So thank you very much.
Thank you. My very able staff provided me with some historical data on Project Turnkey and where it came from. The Oregon legislature model came after Project Homekey in Los Angeles. City of Los Angeles, California has one of the largest homeless populations in America. When they implemented this program, they immediately took 700 people off the streets. They did it at a couple other locations in California and were able to house 2,000 people. This program is Transitional, which means it's a bridge lasting around 90 days. We're able to get people stabilized so we can evaluate them. And it's going to be very hard to evaluate folks unless they are stabilized. And there is a debate whether it's housing first or eliminate their drug addiction first. Well, I think we all know where that's going. And the last speaker talked about return on investment. And I'll talk some dollars on that. The Metro Supported Housing Services tax that was passed on high-income earners in the Tri-County areas is allowing us probably 10 years of income coming forward for services for this. So in my life, being involved in politics in this state for my entire, I've never seen a commitment like this, ever. What happens at the end of 10 years? I don't know. I won't be here. So maybe one of you folks can come in and take over, okay? But when you talk about return on investment, it's very hard for me to calculate the cost of a human life. Thank you very much. Up next, Joshua Kingsley.
Good morning. My name is Joshua Kingsley. I am the pastor at King of Kings Lutheran Church. It's on close to the intersection of Thiessen and Webster, kind of close to the top of the hill. I'm coming today to talk about Project Turnkey, like so many of these people before me. And I'm coming not only as a pastor in this community, but I'm also coming as a single parent of a young child. And I'm coming as somebody who has experienced houselessness in my own life. So, growing up, I lived in a family that was transient. We struggled with housing. I have 3 siblings. We moved around a lot. Some of the comments that Commissioner Savas made just totally make sense to me. So I really appreciate the recognition of just the nuance that, people's housing is as individual and complicated as people's marriages and as people's job situations, right? And at the same time, going through a life of being in and out of housing and being with other people that are in and out of housing, it's easy to see some patterns that develop, right? Some ways to organize the needs that people have, some ways of trying to figure out how to be a good neighbor, a good friend, a good sibling to others. In my own life now, I'm really thankful to not have to worry about that as much. I have stable housing, and I recognize all of the opportunities that are currently available for many people who want to change their condition in life to be able to do so. And I also recognize, even in my own story, which is different than the story of some of my siblings even now, right? I have siblings that are currently houseless now. My own story is different because there is so much community support, right? There are ways, I didn't do it by myself. There are a lot of things that are there to help, and I recognize that helping people, it seems, is always a better investment than not dealing with a situation. I pastor folks now who live in this county and who think about their own safety, and they think about their children, their grandchildren. Some of their family members also struggle with houselessness. And I recognize that this county has houseless people in it, right, with complex situations. I see that it would be safer, more cost-effective, and create the kind of environment that I want to live in and most of my friends want to live in and I want to raise my child in. It would create that kind of environment to be proactive, to purchase housing for folks that need it right now, and also be able to provide the services that they require if they would like that. It's not for everybody. I think it's for enough people that it would improve our lives. And I speak in favor on supporting Project Turnkey. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Up next, Jill Soley. Please come forward, state your name, your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Jill Soley, unincorporated Clackamas County, 0.4 of a mile from the Tukwila Springs
Yes.
property. I'm here in support of Project Turnkey. The Fred Meyers is my Fred Meyers, which is in view of some of the properties that are under consideration. And my property where I live is I am back home in my own childhood home. There's an old 1940s adage that says, you can never go home again. And what it means is that you cannot remake what is an irrecoverable past which cannot be relived. And that's right, I can't relive my childhood, but I will not be cynical enough to say that this place is irrecoverable. My neighbors are everyone in this county. My home is Clackamas County. And when my home is in need of repair, that's because my neighbors have their home in need of repair. But my neighbors don't need to be refixed. They are not degenerates when this picture is unpleasant. They are, as I get to know each of them, complex tapestries of living stories. And I could share with you replete dozens of them. Some would be nightmares that were harrowing because there was no bed. And sometimes they look like sparkles of a miracle because there was. So all of my stories that I could share all began because there was someone who didn't have a way out. Project Turnkey is far simpler than those stories. And I've learned this because I labor in the unhoused neighbor space. The repair that we need is situational. My home that I came home to back in Clackamas is a home filled with a walking wounded, and they need a change of situation. Project Turnkey is a sliver of an opportunity to give a few of those neighbors opportunity, new agency, give them back choice in their life, give them opportunity for self-determination when what has been taken from them are no avenues before them any longer. Project Turnkey is just simply widening an avenue. I spoke with Tom Johnson last night. He happens to be the program manager of the Hotel Motel program. The Econo Lodge McLaughlin is one of them. I told him, as I understand this program to be, I explained it to him. And
Go ahead, you can wrap up, finish.
he said that, under his view, Fareed Brown, if we had, that would be a good place. Fareed Brown, he thought that sounded really good to him. And with strong care supports and navigation contracts, he thought this was a good direction.
Thank you very much for coming forward. I like what you say, a change of situation. That certainly is something I can take away. Anybody else in the room who would like to testify who has not submitted a blue card yet, please come forward. Ma'am, would you like to? Please come forward. State your name, your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
I'm Corey Etheridge. I currently live in Southwest Portland, but I've lived and previously at work and previously lived in Oregon City for about 7 years, and I'm trying to get back as quick as I can. So thank you for hearing me speak today. I'm the Housing Stability Department Manager at Northwest Family Services. Our agency has worked with both of the hotels that are proposed sites for Project Turnkey.
Can you pull your microphone closer so we can hear? Thank you very much.
Okay.
And don't be afraid to be loud.
Okay. Our agency has worked with both of the hotels that are proposed sites for Project Turnkey, and we also partner with some of the programs that this funding would continue and expand. I'm here today to share some stories that show how vital and supportive this project will be. Our current program participants are a diverse group. There's no typical person or household that can sum them up. However, today I would like to highlight how Project Turnkey can change the lives of our elderly participants. First, I can share an example from my own family about how things have gone without a Project Turnkey option. In his golden years, my great-uncle, a former site manager at a residential hotel, struggled with his own housing instability when his 90-year-old roommate needed his space for a live-in caregiver. He couldn't move in with his son because his lease had time limit restrictions for guests. And though we got him on several affordable property wait lists months before, his name on those lists had barely budged. So instead, he moved into an RV, which, to clarify, was not a fun travel experience. In fact, it barely ran. It was not hooked up to water and had limited electricity. Unsurprisingly, in the winter, he caught a cold which landed him in the hospital. Thankfully, he made improvements, but as soon as he would return to the RV, it wasn't long before his condition declined and he was back in the ER. This cycle continued until he deteriorated to the point that he qualified for hospice care. This is finally how his cycle in and out of the hospital ended. This was finally how he found housing stability, and this is not the way it has to be. In our program, we served an older couple with a similar story but different outcome. One of the pair similarly had repeated visits to the hospital during their housing crisis. We were able to provide emergency shelter at Comfort Suites, one of the proposed Project Turnkey sites. And as a note, I've heard that there's been some confusion about that site specifically. I can confirm it's already been a valuable space and would be a fantastic addition to this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Corey, for coming forward. If you want, please fill out a blue card.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else in the room? Tony, do we have anybody online who would like to comment?
Madam Chair, I will begin with Lita Pratt. Ms. Pratt, please state your name and area of residence. You will have 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Lita Pratt. I'm in Clackamas County. I was born in Portland, Oregon at Emmanuel Hospital. I've lived in Portland most of my life, but I've been living in Clackamas, south of Damascus, near the Clackamas River for 33 years. I'm currently a member of the Clackamas United Church of Christ, having attended sporadically for 28 years, and then becoming a fervent worshiper for the last 5. There was a time when my teaching career ended abruptly, and then I was diagnosed with a mental illness, paranoid schizophrenia. If it hadn't been for the welcome to my mother's home, I too would have faced the dire consequences of being houseless while also being very ill. Housing is a basic right that should be afforded to every person. I wish to alleviate suffering from the trauma of houselessness, since home is vital for well-being and safety. As a witness of the streets of our cities, I want to offer support. I'm aware that there, but for the grace of God, go I. Everyone needs stability and is deserving of a lift up. Jesus teaches us to love our neighbors as ourselves. In offering housing, we share in this love, faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these is love. To God I pray for this for all of us. Please vote yes for this project right now and help to save our world. The monies are already there, as are the buildings. This would be a positive and life-affirming action. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tony.
Our next speaker will be Mary Zelhari. Ms. Zelhari, please state your name and area of residence. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name is Mary Zelhari, and I have been a resident of Milwaukee for 30 years. In 2011, my husband and I joined the King of Kings Lutheran Church and began working with them on social justice issues, especially housing. Several of you were on the board then and supported our work to have safe overnight shelter on our property. We weren't successful with that effort, but my husband and I and others continue to support our homeless neighbors by working with Feed the Hungry, Love One, the Father's Heart, the Clackamas Service Center, and the Veterans Village. Each of these experiences have helped us to better understand our houseless neighbors. One story I would share comes from a member of King of Kings Church who became homeless about 4 years ago and remained houseless for 2 years. Then she was placed in a motel where she lived for about a year. Happily, she transitioned into an apartment and has been there for 6 months. She says that transitional housing helped her get back in the swing of what life is like, to have running water, to be able to take a shower, to be able to do the dishes, and to be able to use a bathroom without having to think about where to go. Living outside is a way of life different than having housing. Your priorities are different, from the way you sleep to how you prepare your food and what you can eat. Being transitioned helped her feel somewhat normal again and made the adjustment into her apartment easier. Those of us who support the houseless have many stories, and though not all have positive endings, the opportunity to stay in transitional housing in a motel supported by social services goes a long way to make a happy future possible. A yes vote to purchase motels for the turnkey project demonstrates a high commitment to improving the lives of our houseless neighbors and making Clackamas County a better place for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Tony, who's next?
I do not have any other registered participants. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand feature and I will call on you in the order received. I will begin with Jolene Monroe. Ms. Monroe, please state your name and area of residence. You will have 3 minutes. Ms. Monroe, you're muted.
Hello?
We can hear you now, ma'am.
Okay, I apologize for that. I'm new to this whole thing. My name is Jolene Monroe. I live in Damascus, and I have a small business nearby where the hotels are located. And I definitely see that there's a problem. I appreciate that we need to get people help. My concern as a business owner is that I already have it's a salon. I have a lot of ladies that come in and we already feel unsafe in the area. I have called the non-emergency line for help on a few instances when we've had some people that unfortunately have mental crisis, I'm sure, or some sort of a drug crisis, and I've gotten no response. And I'm really concerned that having this facility is going to make my situation and the situation for my girls worse. We are locking the doors at night. We have people coming by screaming. I'm locking the door in the morning. Yes, it's an issue. Yes, we need to help people. As a business owner, I am just concerned that I'm going to have to move and relocate my business. I have elderly ladies that are concerned about leaving their car parked in the lot. Are they safe to walk out when it's dark? So I'm kind of afraid of what this is going to do to our area, and I guess that's my concern. I understand that there's a situation and we need to help. I'm not sure that this is going to be it, and I'm wondering if this is not a success, if violence in the area pops up, if we see issues, are we going to shut it down? What's the time period? If this is not a success, what are we going to do to help after that happens? If it goes bad for the people in the area? Thank you.
Thank you, Jolene. If anybody was tuned in to the Clackamas County Business Alliance Monday Zoom meeting that we had with the businesses in this area, there's that mall there, and many of the business owners showed up, and we had people from the community show up, and some voiced these concerns. We had the District Attorney, Bill Stewart. We had Captain Brad O'Neill from the Clackamas County Sheriff's Department who addressed these issues. If you're in a business and you're in this situation, you call 911, tell them your problem. The 911 center will route your call to the appropriate entity. If it's a mental health or if it's a non-emergency, sheriffs, they will come out. And if they don't come out right away, call again. You know, I can't guarantee every situation, but that's the best. Regarding thinking that the situation is going to get worse because we have these people here, we're aware that there's a railroad tracks behind this property where there's a lot of homeless, and there's a trail that they come up on. But we do have to try. We do have to try. And because I am not the one who is convinced that just because we have a place for these people, all of a sudden it's going to get worse. I have not seen any empirical data for that. If there is, if there's studies beyond not understanding the situation, you know, please bring those forward. Is there a timeline for this? I have been posed that question quite a bit, and this is what I say. Yeah, in a way, this is an experiment. Sure it is. I think right now the entire United States of America is one big fat social experiment if you want to get down to it. And we have a lot of problems to solve. Let's say we buy this hotel in 24 months, 36 months, it doesn't work. We'll reevaluate, and guess what? Clackamas County will have owned a very valuable piece of property that we could probably sell at a profit. And you talk about return on investment, that's probably the downside. We sell the hotel, and then we give the money back where it came from, Oregon taxpayers. But to do nothing with the opportunity of the tens of hundreds of $millions potential money coming into our county, I feel is a bigger sin. Okay? We're going to try. We are open to change. And in any experiment, as you know, if this course isn't successful, then we change and we make it successful. Yes, we're dealing with humans. Human beings are unpredictable. But we can only try, and that's, I think, what we're just asking the community to allow us to try. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, I appreciate all the commenters today, and also the last one. And Chair, you kind of addressed that a little bit. I'm just going to add the experience when Commissioner Schrader and I walked door to door in the area around 115th and Jennifer Avenue and talked to all the surrounding businesses, and not one of them was in favor of this. And they were saying, very similar to what Jolene had just said, that they already have a situation going on. There are homeless people. There has been issues with break-ins and so on. We did, you know, and again, it's the model, it's how you run it and how secure the facility is. But what really happened was that the situation with the existing homeless and some of the localized crime and vandalism actually disappeared. And the neighbors who were against the project suddenly became in favor and okay, either okay with it or in favor of it, and even put some of the folks to work in employment. What took place there really was that the reasoning behind that helped make that happen was that we had a presence, county, law enforcement, the district attorneys, everyone was involved, and they will be involved in whatever facility we open to make sure that the surrounding area is secure. And also give some of those people perhaps that are in that area currently a place. So there is a positive displacement potential there. We're going to try and get it right as best we can, as the chair stated. But I actually initially turned my light on just to make this one comment. I think that I'm hearing people I just want to make sure people think that, I just want to make sure people know that we are going through a state application process. So the money is not like in our hand, and it's not awaiting a decision tomorrow. It's not a matter of us not making a decision. It is us going through the state process. So the decision point is not upon us yet, nor are the state resources, but I want to make that clarification that we're not dragging our feet. We are actively involved in the application process, and hopefully we'll be approved and we can make a project happen. So that's my comments, Chair.
Good point, Commissioner Savas. Anybody else, Tony, online?
If there is anyone who would like to speak, please use the raise hand feature and I will call on you in the order received. Madam Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
Thank you very much. That is the end of the public communication portion of this meeting, and we will move on. Gary, what's the next item?
Next is County Administrator Update. That's me. I like to use my time to share good news of the work of our employees and our programs. First today, our Utility Support Program, which is supported by our Social Services Division of Health, Housing, and Human Services, uses state and federal dollars, such as a Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, to provide support to those in our community who need utility support. Out of the just finished federal fiscal year, which runs October 1st through September 30th, Clackamas County Utility Support Program provided at least one utility payment to 5,308 households in Clackamas County.
Wow.
Of those, 1,200 households were first-time applicants to this program. Altogether, the program has awarded $4.94 million in payments to people who need help with their utility bills, which allow people with low incomes to spend their money on other necessities like housing, food, and health care. Given this average, that's about a savings of $17,000. Let's see. Average income of the household served was $17,000. So all to say is our staff in Health, Housing, Human Services, thank you for helping to pass these dollars through to those people most needed, most vulnerable populations in Clackamas County. Next, Medicare open enrollment period is currently going on, and we have members of the Senior Health Insurance Benefits Assistance Program, or SHIBA, S-H-I-B-A, who are volunteer counselors that provide free and objective Medicare information and counseling to Clackamas County residents. Last year, SHIBA volunteers provided 948 hours of Medicare counseling to Clackamas County residents. Over 1,000 Clackamas County residents were served by this program. And the connection to us is our social services, health, housing, human services, volunteer connection staff train these volunteers in SHIBA. So that's the connection. Our staff trains the SHIBA volunteers who then go out and help this current last year 1,000 Clackamas County residents understand Medicare. It is complicated for those of you near or getting to that age. So thank you to our outstanding staff. Finally, Transportation and Development, our dog services staff recently took in a stray dog named Buddy. After observing Buddy's personality, drive, and behavioral needs, it was clear that Buddy needed a place to live, which would keep him engaged, his nose active, and body moving. So our dog services worked with the National Disaster Search Dog Foundation, an organization in California that rescues and recruits dogs, partnering them with firefighters and other first responders to help find people buried in disasters. The foundation staff reviewed videos of Buddy and felt that he would be a potential to help in these search and rescue efforts as a search and rescue dog. So Buddy was sent to California, and the foundation is now training Buddy to be a search and rescue dog. So the long story short, this is a great program that our dog services team did to help this dog, Buddy, find a future home that will help people. And in particular, our employee and dog services animal health technician, Courtney Cooper, helped make this happen. So thank you, Courtney, and a great story of what our dog services team does. That's my update today, Commissioners. Thank you.
That's a great story. I'm a dog fan myself. And, dogs are special people, believe it or not. Just ask them, they'll tell you. It's time for Commissioner communication. Up first, Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, good morning, Clackamas County. On homelessness, we all must balance compassion to the individual with responsibility for the community when we make decisions on how we're going to deal with homelessness. Currently, we have projects that use the housing first model. That is, people can be brought off the street into housing. and without going through any requirement to be free of addiction. We also need drug-free zone models to provide security for the very type of families that Pastor Erickson mentioned, a mother with 3 daughters. We need to learn from lessons learned from other states, cities, and counties. And I've shared this week with the staff and my fellow constituents here a film that came out this month entitled Vancouver is Dying. That's Vancouver, BC. And you can go to YouTube and find that film, and you will see in that film examples of why it is important to have both paradigms of supportive housing. That is, safety off the street and under the Housing First paradigm, and also projects that are strictly drug-free and alcohol-free to protect those people that need that environment. I believe in a hand up, not a handout, and that everyone, despite their situation, must display personal responsibility. That's the key. On new taxes and the November ballot. Currently, in this county and in this state, we're suffering from high taxes, inflation, high energy, high food, rent, mortgage rate increases, and gas and diesel increases. These things affect the number of homeless people we have added to those numbers that we are currently working with. And the taxation that we are currently living under has caused many of our businesses in the last couple of years to leave. I ask everyone to look at their voter pamphlet statement very carefully. You'll find across the state $1.6 billion in new taxes on the November ballot. Read, learn, and vote very carefully. I don't think this state can handle $1 more in new taxes. On K through 12 education, I'm happy to announce that you'll soon be able to sign a petition that will increase school choice for the students in K through 12 in Oregon. That hopefully will be on the November 2024 ballot. Please look at the educationfreedomfororegon.com and learn more about that petition. On tolling, also, we have now the IP4 initiative petition to put tolling in front of the voters of this state. You can go to votebeforetolls.org/initiative, and there you'll find the petition and how to fill that out. Finally, I'd like to share something out of history. Perhaps you're one of those people who's alarmed about the state of the world. Perhaps you're horrified at the risks and dangers that lurk about. Pandemics, political chaos, riots, people at each other's throats, unprecedented events. Perhaps you're concerned about the fall of society. Bear in mind that history repeats itself, and Marcus Aurelius once wrote that all of this has happened before and will happen again, the same plot from beginning to end, the identical staging. And we, those of us here in this room, will challenge greater and greater challenges, but we must meet them with courage, moderation, justice, and wisdom, and those things will favor the outcome. We have big challenges ahead. We need big courage, and we need big solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chair Smith. I really appreciate everyone coming today and sharing your thoughts. concerns, hopes, dreams, interests for our community. It truly is in partnership with members of our community that we're able to make good decisions and meet the needs of the members in our community. So I'm deeply appreciative. I believe we can tackle this issue of homelessness and make it rare, brief, and non-reoccurring. I really appreciated the testimony about our neighborhoods, our homes, and that if they're hurting, it doesn't mean that we give up, but we find out how we are going to work together to repair. That's what we do. We work to repair. And our communities, our larger community, our individual community, us working together on behalf of our neighbors, it's worth the investment and working towards. So I'm looking forward to the conversation about turnkey and how we're going to move forward. I do want to say there seems to be this division that doesn't need to exist, and the division is sheltering or housing first. It's like, I just want to say, let's stop talking about that, and let's think about our services as a continuum with different types of shelter and opportunities for stable housing. It's a continuum. It isn't either, it isn't or. And I appreciate what Commissioner Scholl had to say about we need all different types of services for people, because that's true. We do. And quite frankly, and Chair Smith, your presentation with CCBA, excellent, informative, very good. But one thing that I learned during that yesterday that I actually didn't know was we have a legal framework. It's called Martin v. Boise, and it basically says you can't remove people from public right-of-ways without giving them an option that is reasonable for them. And so we have to build this continuum. We don't have any other choice. That court case was just reaffirmed in another case just recently. So this law is settled. We cannot do nothing. We must, if we want to make our community safer and more secure, we must work to solve this problem. And I do want to say I really appreciated the testimony about the individual unsheltered getting sick, going to the hospital, and then ending up in hospice care. I have to say homelessness, and there's been studies on this. We have studies. We have what's called a FUSE analysis, frequent utilization of systems. I don't know what the E stands for. But we've studied this, and we've studied it in Clackamas County. Homelessness costs more than sheltering people. It costs more in our law enforcement resources, people going in and out of our jail system, our court system, and our healthcare system. That's just the financial cost. The emotional cost, it's like I stand with Chair Smith with her statement of, you can't put a value on a human life. I don't know if I quoted that correctly, but that's what you're hearing a lot of consensus from this board. And the one thing that we have strongly here amongst us is compassion for the members of our community. So we're in an engagement process. We have pages of comments that we've received online. We're receiving comments here. I expect that we will have robust conversation as we move forward, and please continue to engage. That's how we are able to make the best decisions possible for our community.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Salas, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think a lot of the conversation probably shortened the comments I'm going to make here on this one particular topic, and I have two others I need to touch on as well. Just to close this conversation out, at least for me anyhow, Chair Smith probably has comments as well. But I want to say that the last evening I watched the debate on KGW, the gubernatorial debate, and was particularly focused really because the big theme on really everything that's going on, I really think, is this topic right here about housing homeless and how we treat it, and how it's working or not working, or where it's working and not working. And I did a tremendous amount of research. I read so much material. I remember, I know the folks that put together the Here Together Supportive Housing Services movement did a lot of research. I read every document back and forth, and sometimes twice. And the theme about the Housing First model, I'm using that as a brand necessarily, that's not exactly, and I'm paraphrasing the comments in the final summary of it all is that this was an approach. It was an approach that has yet to been proven. And essentially that, it cited all those things that we have kind of discussed here today, identifying, and Commissioner Fisher is right. It does cost a lot more money to treat homelessness than it is to get people housed, especially when you have issues like drug and alcohol addiction and mental health, other complications, and health complications, basically, which are just normal in our lives. So the takeaway, and this is what I want to capitalize on here today. I said it earlier, but I really want to emphasize, I say it everywhere I go, and that is that that we have a lot of tools. We have monies, we have the supportive housing services monies, we have some legislative adjustments that have given us more ability to site facilities. But the part that's really not addressed, frankly, is the mental health treatments, the mental health barriers for people to be employed in that area, state certifications where, the entry level into this state is much higher than it is in other states. And I think that's exacerbating our shortage of the resources, the people, with the experts in mental health care. But if we don't have the facilities for these people to go to work, for the people that need some maybe stays in a mental health facility or a detox center, we don't have those people and have those facilities, we are not going to make progress on this, significant progress on the challenge we have in this region and in the state. So I was glad to see that was basically discussed last night in the gubernatorial debate. And, there's some great, statistics out there. Oregon's the worst, 50th at the bottom in the states of the country when it comes to mental health treatment. We're at the top, #1 state when it comes to mental health addictions, and those addictions got worse after Measure 110 passed, with crises and everything else. So we have a significant challenge in front of us. So there are things that need to be fixed. I will end there on that particular topic, and I want to switch over to, what was my other one here? It escapes me, but I'm going to go to one of the topics that I want to bring to my colleagues' attention here is that TriMet has a new proposal out there. It's called Forward Together. And what they're going to do is proposing to rework not all of, but a majority of the bus routes in the region. And it's also in response to COVID because now there's lower ridership, line shifting. My concern is that there's larger geographic areas where there'll be no service. Where we already have areas like that already, but there's going to be new areas. Lake Oswego will see a reduction, and West Lynn will see a reduction in services, transit services. Side effect is also if you don't have local service nearby, you don't have lift service for those who need paratransit service or maybe have mobility issues where they need walkers or lifts to get in to go to the doctor and so forth. So I bring this to your attention only to say that TriMet has determined that their deadline for public input is October 31st, and that is not very reasonable, folks. We need a bigger window to analyze. The changes are so significant. And I just remember just the changes that TriMet instituted when the Orange Line opened, because they were going to change 99E or the 99X. They were going to change the 33, some transit lines. And some people told me I can't get to work any longer. Some people had opportunities where they could go to work and take transit, get to work in places that there was no transit before. So there was gives and takes, but the public's not aware of this. So we're asking, I'm going to ask that we discuss this next week. Mm-hmm. Staff is putting together a letter where we maybe ask them to extend the deadline, and we'll have a more robust public engagement process. But I did want to... Before you continue, you want to tee that up at issues next week? Yes. Is that what you want to do? Yeah. And it's called TriMet's Forward Together, Gary? Yeah.
Staff's already brought it forward, so it's on the list. Okay,
excellent.
Thank you.
But I did want to bring that to you just as an update of the work we're doing here. And I actually may have killed two birds with one stone when I talked about that other issue. So, okay. Chair, I think concludes my comments for today.
Thank you very much. I think we've had a lot of good discussion today about the homeless issue, possible solutions for that. I want to thank everybody for coming in. I'm going to talk about an event that this board attended last night. It was the Clackamas County Fair Board. We had a joint meeting with this board and their board for an update on the future of our fair. And I have to say, I think it's very bright. We are allocated here an additional $4 million of ARPA funds to finish the old livestock barn. We're going to rebuild it as not only a livestock barn, but a multi-purpose facility in the event that we can house people in times of an emergency, of a natural disaster, and that's very good. And the architects presented the blueprint for that and what they hope to build on that, and it's up to the Fair Board to make the final decisions on even the color schemes. Somebody wanted to paint it bright red out there, and I go, holy cow. But I don't know if that's going to go forward. We also had a presentation by the new executive director, Brian Crow. He comes with a really interesting business background, and he loves the fair. He comes from fairs. He also comes from the technology sector, and he does concert venues and fundraising. So we're taking all of his talents together, and he's at the Clackamas County Fair, and we're really lucky to have him. This year's fair was very well attended by the people out there. They're going to make some more adjustments next year on the wise use of space. They have a plan in place to increase more parking, to make it easier for people to get in and out, which is very important. But I really look forward to what the fair is going to accomplish in the next couple of years. It's very important, as Clackamas County is still one of the old-fashioned fairs in our entire state on that. It's also an opportunity to 4-H and the FFA, Future Farmers of America, students to showcase their animals, their goods, their crafts, vegetables, plants, flowers, all that, and ordinary citizens as well. It's 1 week every August. Please attend the fair. And I will say, every weekend, that facility is booked with an event. So that is something very good, too. Seeing no further business before this commission, we are adjourned.